Hey guys, subscribe for daily knife content, and if you're shopping for knives and gear, make sure you check out the description of the video you're watching right now for links to some great online retailers. There's also individual links for knives that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I'm going to be presenting you guys with my updated top 20 list of the greatest folding knives that have ever existed. What does that mean? What do you mean the greatest that have ever existed? I've handled a lot of knives. If you go back and look at all my videos, I have handled a ton of stuff. This list is not exclusive to knives that are ultra budget, right, or ultra expensive. There's actually a mix of a lot of things in here. This list does consist of knives that are currently in production. Whether or not they are available at this very moment is besides the point, but knives that will be available again at some point or that are currently available. That's what this is reduced to. It's also based on knives that I have actually handled and reviewed on the channel. So you will be able to go back and actually check out a full comprehensive review of each and every one of these knives. This is mainly based on the design. So there are knives, rest assured, there are knives in here that are stupidly expensive to the point where it will probably make somebody mad that I put it on the list. Sorry, all right, that's the way that it is. I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna tell you guys exactly what I think. If I think it's one of the best designs in existence, and I agree with the price, right? Not everybody's gonna wanna spend a certain amount of money on a knife, right? But when it comes to what I've handled, what I've experienced, I'm gonna tell you guys the truth. If I think it's an excellent design, I think it's one of the top 20, it's gonna be on this list. Thanks so much to my generous patrons for supporting me right now. You can find a link for my Patreon right down in the description. You can also find, you can find my Instagram right here. Please follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. You will be able to find links for the knives that are available in this video right down there below. I will link them even if they're not available at this moment, so you can at least go check them out or use the link if you're watching the video in the future. Maybe they're going to be there. Oh boy, the days of the Ontario Rat 1 and 2 being a part of this list are sadly over, though I will include them as an honorable mention. I'm sure you guys are wondering, oh, he's just going to say the Rat. That's what everybody says. The Ontario Rat 1 and Rat 2 are some of the greatest knives that have ever existed. They are. They're just not on my top 20 list. I love these. I own them both, right? Use them both. They're great. They're recommendable knives. They're just not part of the top 20, and they were sitting out here so that you had something else to look at other than my Instagram card. Moving on to the top 20. First off, a knife that I don't currently have here with me, of course, the Cold Steel American Lawman. These come in and out. Sometimes they're available, sometimes they're not. This thing has been around forever. It's actually not made in America. It's actually made in Taiwan. But Cold Steel Triad Lock, G10, I believe the newer ones or the newish ones are S35 yen. Look, for 90-ish bucks, yeah, this continues to be one of the greatest knife designs for the money, right? We're not necessarily like dollar for dollar. Is it capable for exactly this? Can I pry my engine out of my car? Can I, slice toilet paper? Can I, basically reduce the atoms of a piece of a paper towel, right, to dust with the, no. Everybody has a different definition of what a knife should or should not be used for, what it is capable of. This comes down to design, usability. Sometimes it comes down to machine work or design, essentially the work that goes into the design, how well the design works, right? So, rather than reducing it to just one thing, there's a lot of different things, a lot of different elements that can bring one of these into the top 20. But the Cold Steel American Lawman was designed as a hard-use folding tool. Not as strong as a fixed blade. Yep, thanks, we all know that. But the Triad Lock is certainly, if you want the convenience of a folding knife and you definitely need something strong, right, you don't want to break the bank, this thing just makes sense. It's absolutely still a part of the list. Moving on here, another knife that I actually don't have here with me, the Spyderco Kapara. Oh my goodness. This thing is so, I've talked about this before. I think the Spyderco Kapara is basically a better PM2. I like the profile better. I like the blade better. I like the contoured scales better. I like the size of the type of hardware. I think it's a little bit more robust than whatever the American stuff, the American Spydercos use, which I still like the American Spydercos, right? I like how the design looks. I like the carbon fiber mixed with the red backspacer. I also really like the wire clip. This thing is fantastic. More expensive, of course, than the American Lawman and some of the other knives on this list. But I think, for what they're wanting for it, quality control, of course, you guys know, Taichung, Taiwan, Spydercos tend to have better fit and finish than other, Spydercos that are manufactured in other areas, including Italy, the United States, Japan, right? They're fine. But Taichung, Taiwan seems to do it best. And this QCI or constant quality control updated version of the Spyderco Kapara that came out maybe a couple years ago, whenever that was. Yeah, this is excellent. It's one of those knives that I just cannot find a lot of flaws with in terms of what I assume they were going for with the design. That is a consistency you'll see with this entire list, right? Does what I assume they set out to do translate in this design? Yeah, Spyderco Kapara, absolutely one of the greatest folding knives that's ever been. Absolutely deserving of a spot on this list. Moving on here, one that I do have, of course, the Doug Ritter and Hogue RSK MK1 G2. I know that there's a specific pronunciation for that, and everybody wants me to say it right. I don't care, sorry. This thing is a KnifeWorks exclusive, and it is basically a Benchmade Griptilian, but it has the Ritter blade, and it is made by Hogue. This is a better Benchmade Griptilian. $160-ish for beautifully contoured and textured G10 scales. We have a countersunk or cartridge steel liner, M390 blade, and one of the best variants of axis lock. I mean, just in terms of a good general EDC knife that is premium and made in the United States, the ergonomics are fantastic. The pocket clip is fantastic. It's running on phosphor bronze washers, has beautiful action, beautiful cutting geometry. This is a legendary knife. It probably will continue to be on this list for a long time. It's one of the permanent size comparison knives that I have on this channel. So many people pick this up and are familiar with it, right? You're not going to hear a lot bad about this knife. It's an excellent design. It is sure to continue to be an excellent design for years to come. And I'm more than happy, again, to include it on this list. Moving on here, another knife that I do not have currently in my possession. The Reeve Umnumzaan. Yes, absolutely. Actually, in my opinion, this is the best knife that has ever come out of Reeve knives. Full titanium US made. These are still S35VN, though I imagine in the near future they will upgrade to S45VN. We've got external stops with, for whatever reason, they put the little O-rings on there. It makes for a silent opening. I don't know what that's all about. But in terms of functionality and tolerances, right, knife design, if for anybody who doesn't know, Reeve is literally the grandfather of the frame lock, or as it was originally called, the Reeve integral lock. So yes, every frame lock in existence, right, that original idea for that lock came from Reeve. Absolutely legendary knife designer, knife maker. For people wanting to spend, this is one of the more expensive knives on the list, right? And some people are going to go, they can't put that on the list. It's way too expensive. Hey, everybody's got a different idea of what they will or won't spend on a knife, right? As far as the stuff I've handled in different price ranges, and that includes anything from $5 all the way up to about $4,000 or $5,000. $450 for the Reeve Umnumzaan, which is made in the United States, is absolutely, this knife is absolutely worth that money. Very capable, very, very high attention to detail, ergonomic lines, functionality. These have the big, the really big washers on the inside of it, and has that, that what we've come to refer to as the hydraulic action. It's not that super drop shutty bearing stuff, right? I mean, most people who have handled it or heard of Reeve knives, you've heard these knives, referred to, or this term hydraulic action is synonymous with these Reeve knives. These aren't knives that you're going to be whipping in and all over the place. They're not going to be like that, right? They open and they shut. They lock up consistently. They center up consistently. They are super easy to take apart. It comes with the tool. These things are just kind of stuck out of time legendary, and in terms of Reeve knives in general. But the Umnumzaan, I love that sort of double harpoon blade. I also love the finish that's applied to the stonewash. Just excellent. Again, a knife that will consistently make this list for, I don't know, the foreseeable future. I just can't imagine the Umnumzaan not being on this list. Moving on here, a knife that I absolutely do have and love. Talk about a knife that, or a design that translates to basically perfection. This is the 2021 Sharp by Design Evo Typhoon. And while Sharp by Design customs are made in the United States, these are production knives that are manufactured by Riot. As good as Riot manufacturing is, right? I mean, most of you watching this video, you're probably familiar with Riot knives. They are expensive, but holy lasagna, do they make some incredible knives. This thing is above and beyond, and it's a perfect example of how a really excellent design can actually take, the quality of a company like Riot to the next level. These do not use traditional detent balls. There's actually a lip of steel that's being used as the detent. And basically what that translates to is a type of action that is not, you can't feel it exactly in any other knife outside of Sharp by Design knives using that system. It is very unique. It's very different. Anybody down in the comments section, if you own one of these, right, I guarantee they can attest to that. This particular version sporting a Damasteel blade, different than Damascus. Damasteel is proprietary. And it's got a compound ground harpoon blade. There are a few different blade shapes. There are a few different variants of these, including DLC frames, different colors of carbon fiber or micarta, right? And then there was a 2017, 2018, 2019 run, something like that. And I know you guys are thinking, you can't put on that on the list. It's not in production anymore. I can almost guarantee, I don't know this for a fact, but I can almost guarantee they will do another run of Evo Typhoons. This thing is wickedly popular, wickedly successful. Basically, every last element of this design was perfectly thought out. Down to, you know, the inlay work, basically the finishes on the frame, the ergonomic lines, the pocket clip, the blade profile, the entire thing, the carry profile. This whole thing is just unbelievable. It's a full-size knife that carries like something that's so much smaller than it is. Cutting geometry is excellent. Everything is just excellent. This is absolutely one of the greatest folding knives that's ever existed. Moving on here, I have to include this on the list. I have to. The Hinderer knives and zero tolerance, made by ZT, Hinderer design, 0562, specifically the TI. This has always made the list. You guys know I'm a huge Hinderer fan, right? This is based on the XM-18. This knife is still excellent. It's been around forever. I want to say the first 0562 was what, 2013, right? The titanium one is the newest variant. They're 280 bucks, made in the United States. You can absolutely still buy this knife. I'll include it down in the description. Excellent flipping action. The only issue with this knife is that it's got a little bit of a double clutch, and then there's like a ton of hardware pieces, but oh my gosh, cutting geometry, the action, right, the ergonomic lines. This is a Hinderer knife. I'm a huge Hinderer fan, so maybe I'm a little biased, but do I think it's one of the greatest knives that's ever existed? Yeah, you bet. And it's absolutely capable. It has all the fixings that you would expect from this price point in this modern knife world, including, of course, bearing, steel lock bar insert that doubles as the over travel stop, and then it's backed up by another over travel stop that is the lock bar stabilizer, which also stabilizes the lock bar in vertical or horizontal wiggle, however you're looking at. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Excellent pocket clip. This thing is great. The knife world has, you know, continued to churn out like thousands and thousands of new designs that borrow elements from this knife, but don't quite do it excuse me, don't quite do it exactly the same way as the ZT-0562. But yes, now, if the 0392 was still in production or there was a chance that we might see it again, I would include it on the list over the 0562. The only reason the 0392 is not going to be on this list is because it's not available. It's not going to be available anymore. So, just so you guys know. Moving on here, the Spyderco Sage 5 Lightweight. Perhaps, I actually did a series on this. I think that this might be the greatest EDC folding knife of all time, right? You guys might be wondering, are these in order? No, they're not in any particular order. Absolutely not. Well, if they're not, you know, like, if you're saying that this is the best one, like this is the best of the list, this list is not specifically based on, you know, which one's best for EDC, which one's best for hard use, which one's best for collectors, for enthusiasts, right? Which one? No, it's none of it. It's everything all together, all encompassing, right? But if we're talking about a knife that translates super well to the everyman in terms of dimensions and ratios that appeal to the vast majority of people, right? Locking mechanism that is strong and secure, easy to manipulate, right? Good thin cutting. Check, 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 check. This knife has everything you could possibly want for EDC. It comes in at a totally reasonable price. I think they're what, 120 bucks or so, which again is going to be expensive to a lot of people, right? That might be like, wow, I would never spend that much on a knife. The Spyderco Sage 5 though, lightweight, specifically using the compression lock, holy crap. This thing is excellent. It is so fantastic. Absolutely one of the best designs on the planet. The materials, right? We're not looking at like multi-$100 fit and finish or tolerances here, but are you looking at a capable knife that's easy to carry, easy to manipulate, has good cutting geometry, right, that's going to get you through your day, the most common types of knife tasks? Is this going to do that for you? Yeah, in fact, I think it does it better than almost any knife on the planet. For EDC, one specific, I mean, if we're talking about just general everyday carry, I think this knife possibly does it better than anything else on the planet. Moving on here, another knife that I do have and own, the Benchmade Mini Crooked River. Now, mine is from the custom shop, Blue G10, black bolsters. We have the blue pivot color, and this particular one is sporting CPM 20 CV. You can actually go build this exact knife if you want to. The standard Mini Crooked River comes in the aluminum, the raw aluminum bolster, and then kind of that wood. If you like that aesthetic, then go for it, right? But I love the Benchmade Mini Crooked River because of course, once again, the fantastic EDC profile, the blade shape. Standard blade steel S30V is fine as well. But it's an excellent design. The pocket clip is excellent. In fact, every last little detail of this knife, they just did it great, right? And, you know, I'm sure people want to kind of dissect it. Well, you got to talk about what the best locking mechanism is. This locking mechanism? No, I'm not going to talk about that. For this design, they chose the axis lock. Is it in the right position? Is it easy to manipulate considering the profile of the knife? Are the thumb studs in the right position, right? It's not about which element is better on any particular knife. It's of the elements that they chose, did it translate perfectly to the design, right? In this case, yes, it did. On top of that, like I mentioned before, this is part of the Benchmade custom shop thing, so you can go in and build whatever you want. Is it going to cost you a lot of money? Yeah. Are Benchmade's prices a little higher than their competition? Yeah. Is this still one of the best knives of all time? Yeah, definitely. In my opinion, it absolutely is. Moving on here, another one that I don't have currently, but I did used to own this, and that's the Les George VCP. This is not the custom Rockeye, not one of the production models through Protech. No, we're talking about basically the mid-tech or ultra high-end production Les George VCP. These are made in the United States. They are periodically available in both non-flipper form with the thumb studs, right? Those are on phosphor bronze. And in this new flipper form, which runs on bearings. That's my personal favorite. 204P, 204P steel, titanium, runs on bearings. God, the design is just so excellent. It's simple. You have a couple of handle screws. You got a captive pivot, bearings. You've got a drop point blade. Very, very fantastic profile. Simple ergonomics, simple lines, straight lines, right? Perfect example of why some knives don't need to be doing anything in excess, or that some, design philosophies don't need to be changed or evolved to create an excellent knife. This thing is straightforward. It flips, it deploys, it locks out. This is a titanium frame lock that does have the Hinderer lock bar stabilizer thing on it. But yeah, it just translates to it's for what they wanted to do here, a simple straight line titanium frame lock running on bearings, right, with a flipper. We've got a bajillion of those, right? And there's a bajillion good ones out there. This one stands up a little bit higher. I love the blade profile. I love the finish on the titanium, the finish on the blade. And I like all the different texture patterns that they do. For the scales, they do a whole bunch of different stuff. I just love the design choice. I mean, down to just like how the hardware looks, how the standoffs look. I love that. And the thumb stud version is great as well, and it functions super well. I've always said this about this knife. For some reason, their tumbling, their stonewashing, their final finish work is so excellent. It feels like polished glass on the outside of the knife. That's excellent. You might think that makes the knife really slippery. It wouldn't translate well to use. With the ergonomic lines there, that primary position for your index finger, it really does lock you in. This thing is excellent, and in my opinion, well worth the money that they're asking for it. Again, remember, this is a U.S. ultra high-end production knife with a lot more work that goes into it versus other things that you might think are in its wheelhouse in terms of competition. This thing definitely is up there with your Hinderers, your Reeves, right? Your Demko knives, absolutely. Moving on here, another knife that I definitely own and not expensive at all, the Civivi Praxis. Absolutely one of the best budget knives in existence. This thing is 40 bucks. We have a G10 and steel, G10 scales. We've got a steel liner lock. They come in a lot of different colors, by the way. 9CR18 MOV blade. Very similar to the Spyderco Shaman in terms of overall profile, except for, of course, the Shaman is a compression lock that uses the opening hole and does not have a flipper tab. But when we're talking about the overall profile, yes, fantastic ergonomics, fantastic pocket clip. The material choices are excellent. The flipping action is excellent. Just everything about this knife. I mean, it's such an awesome user. And, up until here, within the last couple of years, this knife has a lot of qualities that you used to not be able to find in the budget knife world. In fact, nowhere close. I mean, this, not just the design, right, but the action and the detent, that was stuff that used to be exclusive to knives that cost 150, 200 bucks or more. The Praxis just blew past all of that. Now, Civivi has a ton of good knives, a ton of them. right? Only one or two have really come close to how good the Praxis is. Now, this is a big knife, right? If you don't like big knives, this might not be for you, but the Civivi Praxis is a nearly perfect design. And on top of that, for 40 bucks, it's amazing. Every time I pick this up, I'm like, oh, gosh, I always forget this is a $40 knife. Excellent, excellent cutting geometry. This thing is razor thin behind the edge. Nice big blade, very, very capable. This is a great example of a budget knife that someone could probably carry and use for the rest of their life and be totally fine with it. Moving on here, another knife that I used to own and don't currently have, the Protech Malibu. If, you know, Protech, the people at Protech were sitting around thinking, how can we create a US-made manual, a button lock manual knife running on bearings that's just simple lines, straightforward, has a flipper tab, has a good, straight profile in terms of the blade, right? They have a few different blade shapes, right? How can we make that translate perfectly? Well, whatever they did, I don't know, but they churned out the Protech Malibu. As far as a medium to full-size knife, right, in terms of a flipper that's running on bearings using the button lock, right, and I'm not saying, again, that, like, ultra great knives have button locks every single time. No, but, in fact, it's pretty rare that I'm like, oh, cool, a button lock. That's definitely one of the best. This knife, again, combination of all things. CPM 20 CV, 6061 T6 aluminum that's Type 3 hard code anodized or whatever, right? Everything just translates perfectly. A lot of this is, do my hands know what to do naturally? Does this knife just organically feel like it was meant to sync up with the human soul? Not necessarily just the hand that you're going to use to manipulate it, but God, this thing is just perfect. They chose the right pocket clip. They recessed the screws, right? The chamfering was done, really, really well. Profile of the handle, just in terms of like the thickness and the stock thickness for the blade and the different blade shapes and it's the overall appearance. Everything is just so great. I want to say these things come in at about 200 bucks. Yeah, that's fine. Take my money. No problem. 200 bucks for this. Absolutely. Obviously, a knife that comes in and out, right? It's not always available, but very, very, very popular. I'm sure that they will continue to make more. I know some of you have actually obtained yours. I'll link it down below. Absolutely, it gained a deserving spot on this list. Moving on here, the other knife that's not, I don't like it quite as much as the Umnumzaan, but it's definitely deserving of a spot on this list, and that's the Reeve large Inkosi, specifically the large Inkosi. I just like this more than the Sebenza. I just do. I know that the Sebenza is the most popular Reeve knife of all time, and it's great. I like it. It exhibits a lot of the same qualities that I find in other Reeve knives. Do I think it's better than the Inkosi? No. I think the Inkosi has a little bit more purposeful robustness to it. I like that the blade stock thickness is a little bit wider, gives me a little more confidence in the geometry. Of course, their heat treat's going to be excellent. The blade profile, the cutting geometry is excellent. It has that interesting, aggressive hollow grind, right? Has the same types of finishes that you can expect to see on other Reeve knives. They do the micarta inlay thing sometimes. They do the silver lug or the blue lug, right? These are, once again, incredibly easy to take apart. Has that same hydraulic action. These are just straight up, they're like luxury workhorse knives. There's so much knife history and knife knowledge that goes into these designs. Amazing ergonomics, everything, even down to the jimping. It just feels like it's so perfectly spaced apart, so meant to interact with a gloved or bare finger. You get the traction, you don't get the discomfort. These knives are made to be comfortable in hand for long periods of time, in terms of use. They're made to be used, absolutely. Moving on here, a knife that I didn't know up until recently how much I would actually love, one that I've got in my possession right now. It's not mine, it was a loaner from a viewer. The Herman Slim. Oh boy, you can only get these knives at Polish Custom Knives. This is not a custom, it's very ultra high-end production, CNC work, etc. We're talking about insane levels of attention to detail and tolerances. The inlay work, the precision milling on these things, little details like doming off the screws that go all the way through to the other side. Look how they just ever so slightly raise that backspacer perfectly all the way through. Carbon fiber, by the way. This one's got bronze titanium, and then we have a marble carbon fiber inlay there. And I think there actually might be a little bit of gold shred in it or something like that. They also sing. That's not a flaw. If you listen here, yeah, they all do that. They are all incredibly, incredibly smooth. These are wonderful. And also, let me point this out, the cutting geometry. is beautiful. If you want a fully flat ground blade, I mean, obviously this thing is going to be an excellent, just basically a laser beam through whatever material you're trying to cut, and it'll stand up to it. I also like that these are titanium countersunk liner locks. That's beautiful. Oh, the way that that's done is just beautiful. You can feel the precision in this, and you'll have to take my word for it because I know I'm showing it to you on camera. These can go anywhere from $600 all the way up to, I handled one that was approaching $3,000. It depends on the materials that you use. They generally use M390. I've heard they might start using M398, or maybe they already do. They use Damasteel, Damacor, which again is different than Damascus. That's proprietary stuff. They use titanium, they use Timascus, they use carbon fiber, they use zirconium, a lot of different stuff. This is masterwork, guys. We're talking nearly Shirogorov levels of masterwork knife making, but you can get it for, if you're talking about base models, comparing the two, these two makers, you can get these for hundreds less. So while $600 is a lot of money, and there's a lot of people here who would never spend that much on a knife, believe me, from somebody who's handled a lot of knives in the same at the same price point, in the same competition zone, and knives that cost way more than this, you are getting your money's worth and then some with Herman knives, specifically the Slim. Oh my goodness, is this a wonderful knife. Moving on here, another knife that I've got in my possession, the Spyderco Para 3, specifically the G10 version. This is excellent. The only flaw with this knife, the only flaw is the stock pocket clip. This is the MXG deep carry clip that I've added because it makes way more sense and bypasses the stupid position of the lanyard hole. Everything else, though, is perfect. This is my most carried EDC of all time. I think the size of this makes way more sense than the PM2, unless you just need a longer blade, right? But it's so easy to manipulate. This thing is an extension of my hand at this point. This is the maximum version with gray G10. I think the standard version, black G10 S30V, is just fine. I do like it more than the lightweight version that runs on phosphor bronze. I've never had to take this thing apart. I've been EDCing it for like 2 years now. No problem. Whatever version of it you pick up, even if it is the lightweight, I think it's absolutely one of the greatest knives of all time. It's only surpassed in terms of EDC, like knives that I think that are excellent. It's only surpassed by the Sage 5 lightweight as, the most ideal EDC knife ever. But I do love this thing, and it'll probably remain, basically a very permanent part of this list for a long, long time. Moving on here, speaking of Shirogorov, oh boy, this is going to make some people mad because of the price. The Shirogorov Quantum. Yeah, this is expensive. It's $1,100. You'll be hard pressed though. If you've never handled one, these are next level in terms of machine work. It's you're going to be hard pressed to find somebody, a maker out there that's using, that's using CNC in a combination with, with hand work and hand polishing, hand fitment, all that stuff. You're going to be hard pressed to find a knife that comes together as perfectly as a Shirogorov. Absolutely. It doesn't matter if we're just looking at M390 and titanium. No, because the cost, a lot more of what goes into the cost is how long it takes to make, all the precision work that goes into it. You handle one of these, you're going to swear it was not made by a mortal person. You would think this would have to be something that was made in the quantum realm or in another dimension. This thing is insane. It is insane. I can't understand how they did the finishes on this thing. Again, the picture's not going to do it justice. You can go watch my review of this thing. It's mind-blowing. It's absolutely ridiculous. $1,100. Very few knives on this planet that I've handled do I feel like, yeah, I would spend this money on. But you know what? I'm probably going to pick one of these up. Very few knives that I would actually spend that type of money on. But yeah, I think the Shirogorov Quantum is not only masterfully made, it's also masterfully designed. The way that the handle flows, the way that the blade flows, all that intricate machine work that goes into the pocket clip, the positioning of the pocket clip, how the backspacer looks, everything. It's so natural, but it's also just completely and totally out of this world. Quantum, by the way, what a perfect name for that knife. Golly, excellent. Absolutely one of the best knives that's ever been made. Moving on here, of course, another knife that I own, Spyderco Shaman. I know that these have been popping in and out of availability, and the price has also been increasing, right? I'm not super happy about the price increases, guys, but do I think it's one of the best designs ever? Yeah. Oh my gosh, in fact, I think the Shaman has the best ergonomic lines of any knife in existence. You don't necessarily need to switch out the pocket clip. I did. You don't necessarily need to buy the Flytanium titanium scales for it. I did. You don't need to buy the backspace. You can just buy it as it is. In fact, I would recommend that you do that because it's going to turn the thing, if you do what I did, it's going to turn it into a freaking $320 knife. You don't have to do that. Standard version S30V and G10, right? I don't want to pay that much money for G10 and S30V because I reduce the value of all things to just the materials used. I think part of that, the overall value has to do with the materials, but a lot more of it, again, has to go into what it, where it's made, how long, it takes to make, how much work goes into it, right? Do I think the Shaman's a bit overpriced today? Yeah. But do I think it's one of the greatest folding knives ever made? Yeah, absolutely. The design is executed flawlessly. I mean, for those of you who are big into ratios, right, you're looking at this going, there's way less blade. When you do like blade to handle ratio, there's like way less cutting edge. I don't really care about that. I have the ergonomic freedom to move around and get comfortable no matter what it is that I'm doing, right? This is more robust at the edge than other Spydercos, other popular Spydercos. 145 thousandths on the spine, which is the same as the PM2, but you get a little more robustness out to the tip. Not quite a laser beam slicer like some of its American brothers, but will it do the job? Yes, and it'll do it comfortably. Even, cutting materials that are, more easily passed through with better cutting geometry, this knife makes up for that with comfort in the handle. It's actually even like using an open L back to back with this, cutting cardboard boxes for 30 minutes at a time, which I've done. After the 30 minutes is over, my hand is actually less tired with this guy despite having to push a thicker wedge through that cardboard because of the ergonomic lines. I'm not saying that the open L is uncomfortable. I'm saying after 30 minutes, I prefer this. Spyderco Shaman combination, compression lock, and opening hole there. Oh my gosh, what a dream. Excellent. It's going to, again, be on this list for the foreseeable future. Moving on here, perhaps the greatest budget knife that's ever existed. The Civivi Order. We're looking at injection mold plastic, unless you go with the upgraded version. Injection mold plastic, 9CR 18 MOV. Listen, this is a $40 knife, so I don't really care that much. We have a beautiful handle profile, beautiful texturing here in this faux bolster look. Even for somebody who's got larger hands, I don't have huge hands. I wear an XL glove, right? But this is a 7.5-inch knife. It's ultra lightweight. Stainless steel liners that are milled out, so you get that feeling of, you feel confident with it, and it doesn't feel cheap like the Benchmade bug out. It's backed up with those liners, so it feels good. But the injection mold plastic, plenty strong and plenty lightweight. You have an incredibly thin behind the edge, in this case, clip point blade. You've got this little opening hole on the Ortis that you can use the reverse flick, or you can open it with a reverse flick. Value is just incredible here. These things function like knives that cost so much more. They're not using ultra premium materials, but the way that they're put together, the tolerances, just the tolerances make these knives feel way more expensive than they actually are. These are great. Definitely deserve a spot on this list of in my opinion, the top 20 greatest folding knives of all time. Moving on here, of course, the Koenig Arius. Expensive. Base price, $550, made in the United States. Again, though, it's just kind of next level, out of this world machine work. I'm actually surprised that the base version of this knife only costs $550. Again, if you've never handled it or you haven't been handling knives that is in this price territory, it's impossible to compare. Like, how could anything get better than the Benchmade Griptilian or the Spyderco PM2 or the ZT0562? Better is a relative term. Some people do appreciate the extra finish work, the extra quality, the extra tolerances, right? All that stuff. Some people do put value into that, and it's made ever more apparent when you handle it. If you have not handled it and you don't put value into those things because you've maybe never handled stuff like that, I'm not saying everybody has to, right? Then it's not going to make sense, right? Blade profile, excellent. The way that slot peeks up over the frame so you can do that reverse flick or open it with your thumb, or you can flip it, right? Whatever you want. However you want to open it, right? Whatever's convenient, whatever's tactical, whatever's natural, however you like to open your knives, this knife will do it. Flipper tab, excellent. Blade profile, excellent. Action, holy crap, insane. Falls shut, but not like finger guillotine, right? The frame lock is nicely carved out so that you can fidget with it all day, or just, when you need to get it out, unlock it, whatever. It's easy. Everything's easy on the fingers, but when you're locked in, you're locked in. If you want to use this knife, you want to go to work with it, absolutely. It's also got excellent cutting geometry. I love how the pocket clip looks. I love how the handle profile looks. It almost looks like some sort of metal razor feather, like someone turned a robot eagle's feather into a blade. I don't know how to. It's just incredible. In fact, I think that, when we're talking about base price with Bill Koenig and the Arius, I've handled knives that cost close to $1,000 that don't feel nearly as good as the Koenig Arius. It's insane. The level of masterwork that goes into not only the design, but the tolerances, all of that stuff. I'm using the same terms over and over again, but yeah, this knife definitely deserves a spot on the list. Moving on here. Yeah, you guys knew this would be on the list. The Hinderer XM-18. Crazy how little has changed with this knife since Gen 1. A lot has changed, but then again, not a lot. This is a design that I think it's always going to feel like 2014, 2013 in the knife world, right? It just is. In this case, we're looking at titanium on both sides. We're looking at S35VN, right? The standard version of the knife comes in at $425, made in the United States. G10 and a titanium liner on one side and a titanium frame lock on the other. The design is excellent, right? It's got its quirks. The XM-18 has sharp jimping back here. The landing zone isn't great. The flipper tab is not the most optimally shaped for flipping, but it is great as a finger guard, which is what it was actually designed for. The thumb studs are not in an optimal position to deploy it, but they're excellent in terms of the stop. They are external stops, which is, again, what they were designed for. The knife has its quirks, but the design is excellent. It is definitely a workhorse made to be used. They are especially excellent now that we have the tri-way pivot system and they've been updated with the steel lock bar insert that we expect on titanium frame locks now. The reason I like this knife so much is, number one, there's a bajillion variants of it. You want a skinny blade? You got it. You want a fatty blade? You've got it. You want a different finish? You've got it. You want a different blade shape? You've got it. You want to change out your G10 scales for a different color? You want to do brass, copper, titanium? You want to change out your hardware for different colors or different materials? You want to change out the pocket clip, the standoffs? Whatever you want, man, they've got it. You want a flipper tab? You don't want a flipper tab? They've got it. You want a choil version of it like this, or you want one with a no choil? They do that. But wait, I don't want bearings. I want phosphor bronze. Don't worry, because the tri-way pivot system allows you to swap that out, and it comes with the hardware from the factory. Well, I like nylon. It comes with nylon too. They make a knife for everybody. Holy crap. Yeah, I'm a dedicated Hinderer fan, and I will continue to be a dedicated Hinderer fan. When I think of American knives, someone says American knife, I immediately think Rick Hinderer. That guy, he cares about he wants people to experience it. He makes a knife for everybody, right? Just the XM-18, not even counting every other design that he makes, but just when it comes to the XM-18, for nearly everybody out there, there is a version of the XM-18, in this case, the 3.5 inch, right? There's a version for nearly everyone out there. It's crazy. I will link these down below. I know they're scarce right now. I'm sure more are coming. I know I told you guys that this list wasn't in order, but I lied so that nobody would just skip right to the end, right? The greatest folding knife in existence. All of these knives are excellent and well deserving of a spot on this list, but the greatest folding knives that have ever existed, the greatest knife design, right? The greatest all-around knife that has ever existed in this world. I know a lot of people already know, right? Yeah, the Demko AD20. I have the G10 and the titanium variant. These are American made. The G10 variants, this is the MG or machine ground AD20. There is a custom variant. These are the production variants. G10 versions come in at $425. There is a Grivery version that comes in at $325 or $350 maybe. The titanium variants come in at $625. They have a blade designs with or without the hole. They've got the DLC or the non-DLC or the stonewash as you're seeing here. They've got blade steels like CPM 20CV. Both of these are 20CV. They've got 3V. They've got Crewwear S45VN. Probably a bunch more to come. These are robust, heavy-duty knives with very thick blade stocks, 190 thousandths or so. They are definitely a little bit robust at the edge, but they do such a good job sharpening. It's just unreal. They are so easy to manipulate. I'm going to make sure I don't drop mine on this one. So easy to manipulate. Reverse flick. You want to do the thumb stud opening. Great. You want to just whip it out with a shark lock. Have we not talked about the shark lock? Oh my gosh. Andrew Demko is the guy who invented the triad lock. Now, it's not that he was necessarily going after fidget factor, but my guess is, how can we have the exact same strength or perhaps better strength in the triad lock, but make it easier to manipulate with one hand on both opening and closing? Shark lock. Oh my gosh, it's perfect. This knife is so ridiculously capable. It is robust and it is large. Maybe there's a mini coming in the future. That would probably be excellent. Ergonomics, fantastic. Texturing on the G10, fantastic. Lockup strength and security, surpassed by nothing. Nothing. That is the best lock in existence. It's ambidextrous. Oh my gosh. I mean, how seriously, you can switch the pocket clip to the other side. You can see how it's mountable with the screw holes. There's just, it's going to be a little bit robust and blocky for some people, but the design is so well thought out and fantastic. This thing is capable. In fact, it's so capable, it's beyond anything you'd ever need from a pocket knife, but he went there. Covered it all. Some people go, I don't like how it looks, it's kind of ugly. That's fine. But in terms of what it is or is not capable, most people, especially people who have handled it, are in agreement. This is a pretty much like, if the AD20 can't do it, no folding knife can do it. That's, I honestly think that. I think this is the best knife in existence. I have no problem with the $425 base price of the G10 version or the $625 price of the full titanium variant. Which one's better? I don't know. I like titanium, but they're both great. This guy weighs less. It makes a little bit more sense, right? Excellent. In my opinion, the King Blade, the greatest knife that has ever existed. The only complaint I have with it is, well, the pocket clip build kind of points down. It kind of makes it a little frustrating to get it in and out of the pocket. That's a stupid complaint. These are great. More stuff from the Shark Lock in the future, I can guarantee. There's a bright future with this knife. It's not like I'm the only person out here saying that the AD20 is one of the best knives. I'm saying that it's the best, but there's plenty of people saying, holy cow, this thing is excellent. This was a long video. I knew it was going to be a long video. Thanks to everybody who stuck around till the end. Like I said, many of these knives you can find right down in the description. They're available right now. If you're watching in the future, perhaps the stuff that I suggested was unavailable will be available. So check those links out anyway. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was at least mildly entertaining. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.